Good morning. Last class we have seen nuclear reactor, block diagram of the nuclear reactor, and we have discussed various parts. Then we have seen the advantages, disadvantages, site selection of a nuclear power plant. So we have seen that the nuclear reactor is the main part of the nuclear power plant. Okay. So there are different types of nuclear reactors that we have to study in our first module. So in this session, we shall see the classification of reactors. So first of all, first classification is pressurized water reactor. Here, it is represented by, or the short form of pressurized water reactor, PWR, has fuel assemblies of 200 to 300 rods each, arranged vertically in the core. We have seen the fuel assembly in a nuclear reactor. So, in such an assembly, there will be 200 to 300 rods, each arranged vertically in the core. Water in the reactor core reaches about 325 degrees centigrade. Hence, it must be kept under about 150 times atmospheric pressure to prevent its boiling. So, water is kept inside the reactor vessel, and the temperature level may be up to 325 degrees centigrade. So, by increasing the atmospheric pressure, we can prevent its boiling. A pressurized water reactor block diagram is shown here. Here you can see the reactor vessel which contains control rods, fuel rods, etc. Water is being circulated within the reactor vessel. So cold water entering by means of pumping into the reactor is converted to steam, and this is actually going through a pressurizer in order to increase the pressure. Then it is going to the steam generator where steam is being generated. Then after circulation, water is coming back to the steam generator. So by means of pumps, various pumps at various locations, we can pump the water. So this is another diagram. Reactor vessel consisting of control rods as well as nuclear fuel assembly. Then pressurizer is shown here. So pressure is increased in order to increase the boiling point. And at the steam generator session, we are having the steam produced. So we shall see the working of this. So the steam produced is supplied to a turbine. Turbine drives the generator and generating electricity. Steam after use from the turbine goes to the condenser. Condensed water is again going to the heat exchanger. So pressure is maintained by pressurizer. The pressure has to be increased in order to avoid the boiling of water. So pressure is maintained by means of a pressurizer. PWRs use light water, that is ordinary water, for neutron moderation. That is, water is working as a moderator also, and reactor heat removal. So water, ordinary water, is used as a moderator, that is to reduce the speed of neutron, and it is also acting as a coolant. So coolant will be removing heat from the reactor. There are primary and secondary water circuits. In the primary cooling circuit, the water is acting as a moderator also. So in the reactor vessel, ordinary water is being used, and which is considered as the primary water circuit. The secondary circuit is under less pressure, and the water here boils in the heat exchangers, which are the steam generators. So the water circuit in connection with the steam generator is called secondary circuit. This is kept at lesser pressure so that the water readily converts to steam here. But in the primary circuit, water is not allowed to allowed to be converted to steam. Actually, the boiling point is increased by means of increasing the pressure of water in the primary circuit. The steam drives the turbine. Steam produced in the secondary circuit drives the turbine to produce electricity and is then condensed and returned to the heat exchangers in contact with the primary circuit. The primary and the secondary circuit are completely separated in order to avoid the radiation to be induced. Heat energy will be transferred from the primary circuit to secondary circuit. But both the circuits are separated from mixing together. Then PWR's two cooling systems separate the reactor cooling water and steam for power generation. So coolant is ordinary water here that is used for cooling purpose as well as it is also acting as a moderator inside the reactor vessel. Then after collecting the heat collected by the ordinary water is supplied to water kept in the heat exchanger. So there the steam is produced and further used for electricity generation. In the event of necessary venting, steam released will be free from radioactive products because the primary and the secondary circuits are isolated from each other. Then another type of reactor is the boiling water reactor, BWR. This type of reactor has many similarities to PWR except that there is only a single circuit in which the water is at lower pressure so that it boils in the core. So the pressure is not increased so that water gets boiled inside the reactor vessel itself. The reactor is designed to operate with 12 to 15% of the water in the top part of the core as steam. So steam is actually produced in the reactor vessel itself. So here you can see consists of only one water circuit. Cold water is circulated within the reactor vessel so that it is converted to steam and the steam is going to the turbine section. Okay, this is the approximate block diagram of a BWR, boiling water reactor. So this is another diagram. Here you can see cold water is supplied to the reactor vessel. It is being pumped to the reactor vessel. It absorbs heat produced in the reactor vessel and readily gets converted to steam. Steam is going to the turbine. Turbine drives the generator and electricity is being produced. Steam after use from the turbine goes to the condenser. Condensed water is being filled in the reactor vessel. So this repeats. PWRs use light water for neutron moderation and reactor heat removal. So in this case, ordinary water is used as a moderator to reduce the speed of neutrons and it is also acting as a coolant. BWR's basic design is similar to that of PWR except that it uses only one single circuit in which the water is at lower pressure. The steam passes through drier plates above the core and then directly to the turbines, which are thus part of the reactor circuit. So steam actually produced in the reactor vessel is going to turbine straight away. As the water around the core of the reactor always contains some traces of radionuclides, should necessary venting occur, any steam released could contain radioactive products. That is one of the disadvantages of this type of system. Since the water around the core of a reactor is always contaminated with traces of radioactivity, it means that the turbine must be shielded and radiological protection provided during maintenance. Next type of reactor is pressurized heavy water reactor. As the name implies, heavy water is used inside the reactor. So PHWR, pressurized heavy water reactors, generally use natural uranium as uranium oxide as fuel, hence needs a more efficient moderator. In this case, heavy water. So instead of H2O, that is the ordinary water, we are using D2O, heavy water in this case. The PHWR produces more energy per kilogram of mined uranium than other designs. So it has got better efficiency. Heavy water refers to water in which ordinary hydrogen atoms containing only one proton in the nucleus are replaced by heavier hydrogen atoms containing one proton and one neutron in the nucleus, which can help achieve a more efficient fission process. So we are replacing ordinary water by heavy water. A pressurized heavy water reactor is shown here. So this is the steam generator. Reactor vessel is shown here. Then control rods and fuel elements are provided here. Then pressure tubes. Through the pressure tubes, this heavy water is being circulated. Then heavy water, after collecting the heat, goes to the steam generator, where the heat is transferred to water and steam is being produced. Steam after use, after getting condensed, coming back to the steam generator again. This is another diagram. This is also similar to the previous one. Here you can see the turbine generator assembly. That is the only difference. The moderator is in a large tank called calandria, penetrated by several hundred horizontal tubes. Here you can see a number of horizontal tubes where this D2O is being circulated. The reactor is cooled by a flow of heavy water under high pressure, about 100 times atmospheric pressure in the primary cooling circuit, typically reaching 290 degrees centigrade. As in PWR, the primary coolant generates steam in a secondary circuit to drive the turbine. So steam is actually produced in the secondary water circuit where steam is being produced for driving the turbine. The pressure tube design means that the reactor can be refueled progressively without shutting down by isolating individual pressure tubes from the cooling circuit. So you can see the fuel is arranged in horizontal tubes. Around 100 tubes are being placed. So without shutting down, we can replace each tube so that the fuel replacement is being made simple in this case. It is also less costly to build than designs with large pressure vessels. So these are the different types of reactor vessels. So with this we complete the nuclear power plant, and here we shall stop. Thank you for this.